This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion. You'd think at 11:30 I'd be sharp and ready to go, but a couple hours spent watching television on the couch this morning. That does not allow for you to be very sharp. So, without further ado, you know what? We had some stuff pop up this morning while I was sitting there watching television. It in fact happens to be our good buddy Bob Stauffer, of course, the color guy for Oilers 6:30 Ched broadcast, and of course the host of Oilers Now on 6:30 Ched. Let me get this going because I need to just find where I saved it, and then we'll talk all about Bob Stauffer's update on the prospects for November 2020. Let's get to it right here. As you see, it is bang right there. Bob Stauffer's top 10 Oilers prospects for November 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're also new to the channel right now, would be a good time to take the next 10 minutes or so to consider hitting that subscribe button. We talk all things Oilers every day. I've had a couple of people very confused by the fact that I'm an Oilers YouTuber lately. That's been a very confusing thing for people to understand, but with that aside, let's get to it. Bob Stauffer's top 10 Oilers prospects for November 2020. We'll start at number 10, where you've got the third string goalie for the 2020 NHL playoffs, Stuart Skinner, coming in at number 10. You've got Olivier Rodrigue coming in at number 9. You've got William Lagesson at 8, Raphael Lavoie at 7, Benson at 6, McLeod at 5. Dmitry Samorukov jumps way up the list to number 4. And then you've got Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg, and Evan Bouchard as your top 3. Now, obviously, Dylan Holloway coming in at number 3. That's not a shock, right? He's the latest first-round pick. He's also the latest of the top 3 in terms of first-round picks for the Oilers. He is coming in at number 14 as opposed to a Broberg at 8 or a Bouchard at number 1 right now, who came in number 10 in his 2018 draft year. So this is an interesting list because you look at all these guys and where they're playing right now. The only guy that I know for sure, as far as I understand, isn't playing right now is Stuart Skinner, and that's because he's practicing with Leon Draisaitl in Edmonton as we speak. So yeah, all these guys are active doing things overseas or with Team Canada, whether they be active or they're just online training right now in their hotel rooms. Whatever the case might be, there is some precedent for these guys going out there and continuing to grow their game as we await the NHL and AHL seasons to get underway. Obviously, Dylan Holloway, he's waiting for the World Juniors. He'll get back to Wisconsin in the new year, and then things will be mighty dandy for him. That whole situation is a mess. I don't fully understand it. I mean, yeah, it seems like there was a pretty good development curve at Wisconsin, and then now Team Canada's shut down for a little bit. And welcome to 2020 is about all I have to say on that one. That's kind of the mess it's been. It's the mess it is, and I mean, it just continues. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it'll give right through the holiday season. Bouchard coming in at number 1, right? We've seen what he's been doing, lighting up the Hockey Allsvenskan. It's been solid for him. Philip Broberg, he's, I think, either tied or a point away from tying. Last update I got on him on a career high in the SHL, right? The Swedish Hockey League. He, 7 points in some odd games, which he had 8 all of last year, so he's doing all right. You've got Dmitry Samorukov, who's been having an exceptional year on the blue line in Russia in the KHL. You like to see that, and likely we'll probably see him spend the whole rest of the year there, which means if the Bakersfield Condors do indeed get things going again, it'll mean that they will be Dmitry Samorukov-less when the season gets underway. You've got Ryan McLeod, who's had a pretty good go in Switzerland. You've got Tyler Benson, who's with the GCK Lions. He's been doing some things. I mean, not making as many waves as everybody else, but maybe a quiet kind of COVID season for Tyler Benson, and then a big training camp is what he's need. We've seen that reported by multiple outlets, is that it's getting to that show and prove time for Tyler Benson, and that's fair, that's fine. I'm not against that, but at the same rate, you don't want to sit here and have him coming in with super expectations and then have him get crushed by the media, the fans, and the team for not delivering top line quality production with Connor McDavid. Just saying. And I mean, every time we start getting excited about a prospect, it seems to always be we're slotting him way ahead of where he could be because that's where we see him being, and then it just leads to failure all the way around. So let's not even go there is what I'm saying. Raphael Lavoie, this is a shock to me, number 7 on the list. But really, realistically, you look at kind of the depth chart here. Sam Marukov, due to what he's doing, that's why he's in number 4. Raphael Lavoie is doing incredible things in the Hockey Allsvenskan. However, he is, of course, on a worse team. He's like the team leader in goals, and they don't really have much else going on. The goaltending's been atrocious. The forward depth's atrocious by the looks of it. So for Raphael Lavoie, if he's leading that team, you'd wonder where he'd be on a top-tier team in the Allsvenskan. And I guess that's maybe my kind of question mark, and that's why I see number 7's fair, right? Now, obviously, this is only a year removed from his draft year. So, right, you got the top 2 picks at 2 and 7, right? Broberg and Lavoie from the 2019 draft. That's not bad rankings. You like to see that. And then, obviously, Olivier Rodrigue coming in at number 9. Is that a victim of being low on the list because, right, we haven't seen him play pro hockey and now he's just starting to bust in, so now he's there? Or is it a victim of there's so much talent ahead of him in the pipeline that that's where he slots in, all things considered? Because he's had a heck of a go in, I believe it's Austria, in the Ice HL with the Graz 99ers. So, yeah, you can't complain about that in the least, but at the same time there's a lot of depth on this top 10 prospect list, right? You've got 3 solid first round picks. You've got Dmitry Samorukov, who just proves to be a stellar pick still and continues to. Ryan McLeod, excellent second round pick. Tyler Benson, excellent second round pick, just needs it to break his way. He is the most on the bubble to being a full-time NHL player right now. Evan Bouchard, like, on his heels, close second. And then Raphael Lavoie up there, like, he's a guy that looks like he could take a jump. But, right, everybody else is kind of, they could take a jump, but they're not quite there. Whereas you have Bouchard, Broberg, and, of course, Tyler Benson right there, ready to make the push now. And I think Broberg, maybe a little bit more the media and the fans want him to make that push, as opposed to him being fully ready to make that push. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, that is going to happen. So let's go cover one last thing here I was thinking about. Where was it? I had something thought about. Stuart Skinner, Olivier Rodrigue. I had something going on in my head that I was going to go Google for you, but apparently I've already forgotten it. So top 10 oh, right, I was going to go kind of get a recap of the other prospects in the system, because the Oilers have a lot more than just 10 prospects in the system. These are the top 10 fair and dandy, right? Cooper Marody's not on this list. Kirill Maximov's not on this list. Ostap Safin's not on this list. You don't have a guy like, I don't know, Philip Kemp on this list, right? You've got a William Legason on this list, so fine and dandy. But there's a lot of guys missing from this list that I think once you start talking that number 10 spot with Stuart Skinner, he's just on there by default almost, I'd imagine. If I could debate Bob Stauffer, I think there'd be a lot of reason to push that anybody could really take that top 10 spot, and not having Stuart Skinner on the top 10 list isn't necessarily a bad thing, because this guy is, of course, the guy that's been the third string in the NHL playoffs. So he's technically already there, right? He's sat on the NHL bench. He's a prospect, yes, but he's becoming more and more a part of the active NHL thought process when it comes to goaltending. So you can debate then, do you want to add a Philip Kemp? Do you want to add somebody like a Kirill Maximov? Who do you want to add at that 10 spot? And I think that's fine and dandy to start debating that. But this is a pretty solid list from Bob Stauffer. I don't think I've said that yet, and I think that's what I got to say is, right, you've got Bouchard, who is making that NHL ready push. You've got Benson at number 6, but Benson, I guess, okay, I didn't explain my thought process on why Benson's more ready to make that NHL push than Evan Bouchard, right? Benson's the 2016 draft pick that's on this list. I think the only one from 2016, maybe other than Stuart Skinner, who I think is 2017, that's still on this list. But when you kind of rank this, Tyler Benson is a lot lower ceiling than Evan Bouchard. So even though he might be more ready to make the push, Evan Bouchard's got that number one D-man potential in our eyes, right? That's why we drafted him 10th overall, is he's got that number one D-man potential. That's why Broberg's up there. That's why Holloway is up there. Holloway projects to be, at worst a third-line centerman. But for the Oilers, that is a key position. That's why we signed Kyle Turris, right? So there's a lot of kind of importance riding on a third-line center role with the Oilers. Whereas Tyler Benson being a left winger, trying to find himself a role on this Oilers team. Yeah, Dominic Cahoon might only be a temporary fix. That's great. But Tyler Benson does not exactly project to be a legit 50-point second-line winger. That's, I'd say. But he has the potential. Anybody has the potential to do that, right? Anybody could do that. But for Tyler Benson, he's probably that top 9 forward that elevates when need be, but finds himself at home solidly playing third-line minutes. And there's why you have that disparity of more NHL ready than Bouchard, however, way down the list at number 6 as compared to number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my take on Bob Stauffer's list. There's a lot to digest. Yeah, I mean, it's prospect rankings. We all have opinions on it, and I mean, if I'm going to allow anybody to go and run their crazy opinion, it's on prospect rankings because it's all made up until they prove otherwise in the NHL. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyson, Dolynny TV, up on, out of here.